The rain in Seattle never stopped. Elena sat alone in the dim candlelight, staring at her father's empty leather chair. The funeral ended 2 days ago, but the silence in the house was heavy, suffocating. Suddenly, her phone buzzed on the mahogany table, cutting through the dark quiet. An unknown international number flashed on the screen. She slid the bar, pressing the cold glass to her ear. A voice emerged, breathing heavily, weak, yet sharp. It was her father's exact voice, trembling with pure terror, whispering from the static, "Elena, you must save me. They are coming." She froze, her heart stopping as the phone nearly slipped from her shaking fingers. The line went dead, replaced by a cold, synthetic hum. Before Elena could breathe, a new text notification popped up on her screen. It contained a digital legal document stamped with an official international seal. A man's voice suddenly broke through the speaker again, but it wasn't her father anymore. It was a sharp, cold attorney named Nicholas. He claimed her father left a massive, hidden, inherited debt of $150,000 tied to an illegal overseas affiliate network. If she didn't clear the balance within 48 hours, her family estate would be completely seized. Elena stared at the screen, the digital ink glowing like a death sentence in the dark. Elena's hands shook as she opened the attached audio file. The playback bar began to slide, and the speaker crackled with heavy analog distortion. It was a secret confession, recorded in her father's study. His voice sounded frail, broken, gasping for air between sentences. He admitted to making a catastrophic financial mistake, losing everything to an anonymous offshore handler. He begged her to settle the debt, to save her own life. Elena felt a cold sweat break out along her spine. She knew her father's voice better than anyone, his unique pauses, his slight Midwestern drawl. It was flawless, terrifyingly real, a dead man speaking from beyond the grave to destroy her peace. Desperate for answers, Elena spent hours tearing through her father's private study. She unlocked his vintage oak desk, searching through stacks of old financial tax archives. Everything was meticulously organized, clean, perfectly legitimate. There were no hidden loans, no offshore accounts, no secret affiliate liabilities. Her father was an honest school teacher, not a dark web cyber criminal. The math didn't add up, making the phone call feel like an impossible nightmare. Her mind began to twist into deep paranoia. If the document was fake, how did they obtain a perfectly clear voice recording of a confidential confession? The dark room felt smaller, trapping her inside a digital maze with no visible exit. The heavy oak door creaked open, and Mark, Elena's husband, stepped into the dim study. His tailored suit was slightly wrinkled, and his face carried an expression of deep, protective concern. He walked over slowly, wrapping his warm arms around her cold shoulders. When Elena told him about the horrifying voice recording, Mark didn't seem surprised. Instead, he sighed heavily, looking down at the scattered tax papers. He gently grabbed her hands, urging her to settle the amount immediately. He argued that international cyber syndicates were lethal, and fighting them legally would destroy her life. He insisted that protecting her safety was his only priority, but his eyes remained cold, fixed on the empty leather chair. After Mark left the room, Elena couldn't shake a lingering feeling of suspicion. She examined the digital invoice again, zooming into the microscopic metadata buried inside the electronic document header. Her breath hitched. The digital routing address matched a defunct financial consulting company, Apex Group. Her heart raced as a ghost from her past emerged. Alex, her ex-boyfriend, used to operate as a senior software architect for that exact firm before he went to federal prison for a complex identity theft scheme. The coincidence was too precise, too dangerous. The pieces of the jigsaw puzzle began to shift in her mind. This wasn't a random corporate attack. It was an intimate, targeted execution designed by someone who knew her history. The next afternoon, Elena sat inside an isolated, dimly lit coffee shop on the edge of town. The air was thick with the scent of bitter espresso. The door opened, ringing a small bell, and a figure emerged from the rain. It was Alex. He wore a dark jacket, his eyes sharp, calculating. Hardened by years spent in prison, he slid into the booth across from her without saying a single word. The harsh neon sign outside cut across his face, dividing it into brilliant white light and pure pitch darkness. Elena slid the smartphone across the table, displaying the extortion text. Alex looked down, a slow, mocking smile creeping onto his thin lips, completely unfazed by her accusation. Alex leaned forward, his voice a low, raspy whisper that barely carried over the cafe hum. He admitted he built the architecture for the extortion scheme, but he wasn't the criminal mastermind. Gaining her full attention, he revealed he was merely a hired technician. He explained that a modern AI voice clone scam required massive, high-quality source audio files to replicate a human voice flawlessly. He looked deep into Elena's panicked eyes, stating that someone had to physically record hours of her father's private conversations inside his house. Alex sneered, explaining that the real ghost wasn't a computer program, but someone who had total, unrestricted access to her family's innermost sanctuary. Elena sat erased as Alex vanished into the rainy night. Her heart hammered against her ribs like a trapped bird. She picked up the black memory card he left behind, inserting it into her backup tablet device. Files loaded instantly. It contained raw audio logs dated 4 months ago. Her breath completely stopped in the recordings. Her father was talking about his medical routine, coughing, frail, but it was the background audio that shattered her soul. She heard another voice guiding the conversation, prompting her father to repeat specific phrases. It was Mark, her devoted husband. Mark had been systematically harvesting her dying father's voice for months, setting up a horrific identity theft machine long before the funeral took place. Elena drove back through the pouring storm, her mind spinning with freezing fury. She arrived home, stepping quietly into the dark house. Mark was fast asleep on the living room sofa, his phone resting on the glass coffee table. Elena approached like a shadow, using his limp thumb to unlock the device via biometric scan. She scrolled through his private encrypted messaging applications. Everything became sickeningly clear. Mark was texting Alex, coordinating the entire financial thriller execution. One message read, "She's terrified. She's going to transfer the $150,000 tomorrow. Make sure your account is ready for the split." Elena stared at her sleeping husband. The man she loved was a monster. The betrayal was absolute. Cutting through any remaining weakness in Elena's heart, she didn't scream, she didn't cry. She didn't wake him up in a fit of rage. Instead, a terrifying, icy calm settled over her features. She walked back into her father's study, sitting down inside his empty leather chair. The green banker's lamp illuminated her face, casting jagged shadows across the room walls. Her mind worked like a precision watch mechanism. Mark thought she was a helpless victim of an AI voice clone scam, an easy mark to be drained of her inheritance debt. She would let him believe that. She would play her role perfectly, while preparing a brilliant counterattack that would destroy both men completely. The following morning, Elena walked into the downtown branch of Continental Bank. The lobby was vast, clinical, filled with polished marble and security cameras. Mark stood right beside her, his hand resting gently on her lower back in a fake display of emotional support. Elena spoke to the senior wire transfer officer, her voice trembling with artificial panic. She requested an immediate wire transfer of $150,000 to the international account provided by Alex. Mark watched the banker type, his chest swelling with hidden greed. He believed his financial thriller plot was concluding flawlessly. He didn't know that Elena had spent the night working with the bank's fraud division to tag every single dollar digital serial code. The transaction went through instantly, a lightning-fast digital routing process. Across the city, inside a luxury penthouse apartment, Alex sat in front of 3 monitors. A green confirmation banner lit up his sharp face. The $150,000 had arrived. Alex laughed out loud, a deep, hollow sound echoing through his empty room. He immediately began packing a premium leather duffel bag with forged passports and cash. He had no intention of splitting the money with Mark. In his mind, Mark was just an amateur, an idiot husband who did all the dangerous dirty work for free. Alex zipped the bag closed, ready to catch an escape flight to South America, completely blind to the digital trap closing around his neck. Back at the house, Mark checked his tracking app, discovering that Alex had cleaned out the entire Target account, moving the money to a private wallet without notifying him. Mark's face twisted into an ugly mask of rage. He realized he was being double-crossed by the technician, gabbing his car keys. He flew into a blind fury, rushing out into the torrential rainstorm. He drove recklessly to Alex's penthouse complex, slamming his fists against the heavy steel apartment door. Alex opened it, holding the packed duffel bag. Mark charged inside like a wild animal, screaming about his 50% split. The financial thriller had decayed into a brutal, vicious confrontation between two desperate criminals. Arguments exploded into physical violence inside the luxury penthouse room. Mark threw a heavy punch, striking Alex across the jaw. Alex stumbled back, crashing into a glass coffee table, shattering it completely. Blood and broken glass splattered across the polished concrete floor. Alex recovered quickly, lunging forward with a hidden pocket knife. They rolled across the floor in a desperate scramble, trading blows, blinded by their own greed. The modern life scenarios they planned had escaped their control completely. They were destroying each other, unaware that the entire room was surrounded. Red and blue police sirens suddenly filled the panoramic glass windows, casting a pulsing pattern of doom over their bloody struggle. The heavy penthouse steel door splintered open with a deafening boom. Tactical FBI officers, wearing full combat gear and carrying assault rifles, flooded into the apartment room. Laser sights sliced through the darkroom atmosphere, painting bright red dots across both Mark's and Alex's chests. They were pinned to the cold floor, handcuffed aggressively, their financial thriller scheme shattered into pieces. Mark screamed in confusion, protesting his innocence. A senior federal agent stepped forward, holding up a digital warrant. He informed them that the wire transfer funds were digital bait tagged by the bank's cyber fraud unit. They were caught red-handed in a major federal identity theft operation. Elena's trap had snapped shut perfectly, locking them away. Down on the rainy street, a crowd of spectators gathered behind police tape. Mark was escorted out in handcuffs, his clothes soaked, his face covered in bruises. As the officers guided him toward the police cruiser, he stopped. Standing across the street, under a large black umbrella, was Elena. The cold streetlights illuminated her face, casting a beautiful yet terrifying shadow over her features. She stared directly at him, her eyes holding no sorrow, no remorse, only absolute silence. Mark realized the truth. She knew everything from the very beginning. She didn't say a single word. She simply watched him get shoved into the back seat, her execution complete. Elena returned to her large, quiet, suburban home. The storm outside had passed, leaving an eerie silence over the estate property. She walked into the house, locking the heavy front door behind her. Instead of going to the bedroom, she moved directly toward the hidden basement door at the back of the kitchen pantry. She opened it, walking down the wooden steps into a bright, climate-controlled subterranean bunker space. She turned a corner, and there, sitting comfortably inside a modern leather armchair, was her father. He was perfectly healthy, holding a premium glass of red wine, smiling warmly at her entry. He hadn't passed away. The funeral 2 days ago was a complete fake, a brilliant staging masterpiece. Her father took a slow sip of his wine, his voice perfectly normal, strong, resonant. He had discovered Mark's disgusting digital surveillance scheme 6 months ago, finding the hidden recording micro devices inside his study room. Instead of confronting the cheating husband, he and Elena decided to run a counter-operation. They coordinated with a high-end medical clinic to support a fake terminal diagnosis. eventually staging a flawless legal death scenario. They used Mark's own identity theft tool against him. They knew Mark would try to exploit the voice audio files to steal her money via an AI voice clone scam. Elena smiled, stating that the $150,000 transferred was actually Mark's own secret Kovac cash funds they had intercepted weeks ago. The execution was flawless, a complete tactical victory. Elena walked over to the desk, picking up 2 valid international passports and their premium flight tickets, with Mark locked away for federal fraud, and her father legally declared deceased. They were completely free from their old lives. The massive $1 million legitimate life insurance payoff had already cleared into their Swiss banking structures. Elena looked down at her active smartphone device, selecting the audio synthesis application Mark used with a single cold finger press. She deleted the entire voice architecture archive, wiping the data vin-vened. She looked up at her father, smiling as they grabbed their packed luggage bags, stepping forward into a bright new future.